Now, when we talk about Bidah, or misguidance, or innovation, we have to understand that there are things that people do that are small or minor. They're cultural in nature, or they're something from their area or part of the world, and they've made it into a religious practice, and it's a minor thing. It's a misguidance that you should be aware of, but then there are sometimes misguidance or Bidah or innovations that are major. And so the scholars differentiate between what is a small innovation and what is a major innovation. There are things that people do, innovating into the religion, things that are so out of the deen, not from Islam, so beyond the pale, so misguided that you look at them and you have to say, brother, you've gone from being a Muslim in what you're doing into doing something that is not even from Islam. What you're doing is so far beyond the line that I don't even know if we can call you part of this religion anymore, because what you're doing is so not from Islam. And so it's important to understand that sometimes the misguidance can be so great that it is actually something that kicks you out of the deen, kicks you out of the very religion that you're in, because you've changed or morphed or warped or become so misguided in your beliefs and your understanding that you're no longer believing what those who call themselves Muslims and followers of the true Sunnah believe. And that's why we get to point number 7 of Imam Barbahaaree Sunnah, where he says, beware of small innovations. Beware of small innovations, because they grow. Because they grow until they become large. As we said, Imam al-Barbahaaree is one of the great scholars of the early generations who would make the method and understanding of the creed in points. And so here we get point number 7. Beware of small innovations, because they grow and they become large. This was the case, he says, with every innovation introduced to their people, our Ummah, to the people of Muhammad. It began as something small, resembling to the truth. Began as something small. The innovations start small, resembling the truth, which is why those who entered it were misled, he says. And once they entered it and became misled, he goes on to say, they were then unable to leave it. They got so far in their misguidance that they were unable to leave their misguidance. So it grew, and that became the religion which they followed, and thus deviated them from the straight path and left Islam. They got so far in their misguided path that they started to follow a path that wasn't the true path, wasn't Islam. And it's important for us to understand that innovations, even small, grow. And to make this point clear, we have the story during the time of the great companions, after the death of the Prophet. And it's narrated by Ibn Salma, who said, we used to sit by the door of the house of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, one of the great companions of the Messenger, who was known for his great intellect and knowledge of the Sunnah or the Deen, knowledge of the way of the Prophet and the creed and the religion of Islam. And so, to show the reverence of the early generations for the great companions, they used to sit by his door, waiting in the morning for him to wake up, so that they would accompany him from his house to go to the Fajr, the early morning prayer. And so they were waiting one day by his house when Abu Musa came one day and saw them sitting there. And he asked, has Abdurrahman come out yet? And they said no. So he sat with them waiting. Now when Abdurrahman came out, everybody stood And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari spoke, and he said, "Oh Abdurrahman, oh Abdurrahman, I've just seen something. I've just seen something which I think is evil. But what I actually saw looks like good deeds." Ibn Mas'ud asked, "What did you see?" Abu Musa said, "If you live long enough, you might see it yourself. I saw people sitting in the masjid waiting for the salah, waiting for the prayer. And there was one man amongst them as they were sitting in circles with little pebbles. And the man amongst them was saying out loud, 'Say Allahu Akbar 100 times. God is great.' And the people around him were saying Allahu Akbar 100 times. And then he would say La ilaha illallah 100 times. And the people around him were saying La ilaha illallah, there's only one God 100 times. Then he said, say Subhanallah 100 times. And the people in the mosque gathered around counting the pebbles were saying Subhanallah, praise be to Allah 100 times. And he looked at him. Ibn Mas'ud said, "What did you say to them?" He said, "I said nothing to them. I came here to tell you and ask your view about it and see what you decide." Ibn Mas'ud straight away said, "You should have told them to count their evil deeds. To count their evil deeds. And assured them that none of their good deeds would be lost." And so they started to walk towards the masjid. And as they got to the masjid, Ibn Mas'ud walked into the mosque and he saw the circles with people there holding the pebbles. And he said to them, "What is this that I see you doing?" They replied, "Oh Abdurrahman, these are pebbles. And we're just counting the takbir and the tasbih, the praises of the Lord and glorifying God Most High." He said to them, "Count your evil deeds. Count up your evil deeds, but I assure you, none of your good deeds will be lost. Woe upon you! Woe be upon you! O people! O Ummah! O people of the Prophet! O people of Muhammad! How quickly you go to destruction. How quickly you go to destruction. There are companions of the messenger amongst you. They are widespread. The clothes of the messenger of the Lord have not even decayed, and the bowl that he used to eat from is not broken. By him in whose hand is my soul," Ibn Mas'ud said, "by him in whose hand is my soul, either you guys are on some religion that is better than the one that the Prophet came with, or you have opened the door to misguidance." They said, "Oh Abdurrahman, by Allah we swear, we only intended good. We only intended good." Ibn Mas'ud said, how many there are who intend good but fail to achieve it. How many there are who intend good but fail to achieve it. Indeed, he said, the Prophet told us that there are people who will be coming, who will recite the Quran and the words of Allah, and it will not pass beyond their throats. Meaning they won't have any benefit from the words that they get. Indeed, by Allah, he said, there are people who will recite the words of Allah, the Quran, but it will not pass by their throats. Beyond their throats. By Allah, I don't know, Ibn Mas'ud said. By Allah, I don't know, but maybe most of those people that the Prophet was referring to was y'all. And then he left. And that is why we go back to point number 7 of Imam Barbahaaree. Beware of small innovations, because they grow until they become large. Beware of small innovations, because they grow until they become large. Assalamu alaikum.